Hello, and welcome to this edition of People in Transition. I'm your host, Bob Gerst. I've been hiring and mentoring executives, frontline employees, and job seekers for nearly 40 years through a host of transitions, some difficult, but most very good. This experience has given me a bird's eye view on a variety of trends, economies, industry disruptors, and transitions, big and small. It also brought me into contact with the thought leaders and decision makers you need to meet. Imagine knowing exactly what to do next and how to know it's time to make your big job change. We all know transitions can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. And it's even fun when you have actionable strategies and proven tactics to achieve the future you want. We'll share with you the tools and skills that can take your dreams to your next great job. So if change is on your horizon, you won't want to miss this discussion. Also, please subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. Welcome to the People in Transition podcast. We have a very special guest today, Madeline Mann. Madeline has revolutionized the job search process, helping thousands of professionals land career-defining roles. As the founder of Self Made Millennial and the author of the upcoming book, Reverse the Search, she has built an award-winning career coaching empire. Her approach flips the traditional job hunt on its head, empowering job seekers to break into competitive industries and land the right job. And I don't mean just any job. Are you tired of seeing your dream roles slip away before they even hit the job boards? Have you sent out countless applications only to be met with silence? Madeline is here to change that. She teaches professionals how to become job shoppers using a proactive strategy that gets them noticed by top employers before the competition even begins. Her methods have helped people secure high-paying roles at Fortune 500 companies and earned her features in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, ABC News, and a LinkedIn Top Voice distinction. Today, Madeline will share her insider strategies, the power of effective networking, and how you can attract career opportunities, sometimes even while you're asleep. If you're ready to transform your job search into a targeted, results-driven process, you won't want to miss this conversation. Madeline, welcome to the show today.
Thanks so much, Bob. What an intro.
Madeline, my signature question that my listeners really enjoy hearing about is, if you think back when you were a child, what was it that you wanted to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a construction worker. I would see them working where it looked like there's nothing. It was just the ground floor and maybe some beams standing up. And then you drive back a week later and a whole floor of a building would be built, and then the next floor and all of that. And I was just amazed at how anyone could look at a blank slate like that and build it. And so I thought that would be the coolest job.
I have to tell you, you're my first wannabe construction worker that I've interviewed. This should be exciting.
Yes, still a wannabe. I never fulfilled that dream.
Madeline, in your book, you talk about aiming for roles below your skill level in your job search isn't a shortcut to success. Can you explain what you mean by that?
A lot of us in the job search, when we are hitting a wall, we're not getting responses. We think, well, I am just going to go for roles that I am maybe not even just 100% qualified for, but 150% qualified for, that I'm overqualified for, because they would be dumb to not give me an interview for this opportunity. And what people don't realize is that it's actually more difficult to get a job that you're overqualified for than underqualified for. And the reason this happens is because companies are looking for someone who really wants this job and is going to stay in it long term, because it all comes down to costs. They do not want to have to rehire this role or you come into the role and immediately ask for a promotion, ask for a raise, all these things. They want someone to do this job and this job only for at least an extended amount of time. We can talk about a promotion and a raise down the road. And so they are too afraid to hire someone who's overqualified because they think they're going to get bored. They think that they are going to feel undervalued because the compensation that they have doesn't match what that person has made historically or whatnot. And so it really is a poor strategy to shift in that direction, and you'll usually see fewer job opportunities coming your way.
And you talk about degrees and certifications rarely helping you to be able to stand out, and instead are more of a baseline qualification in your application. Talk to us about that a little bit.
I like the way you phrase that because that's important. I'm definitely not saying that degrees and certifications are not important or helpful or whatnot, but it's exactly as you said. It is a baseline requirement. It is a baseline of, okay, I'm filling a skill gap. I'm filling a knowledge gap. But a company or a hiring manager is never going to look at two different candidates and say, ooh, it was really those two additional certifications on top of the basic education that really put me over the edge to hire this candidate. That never happens. It's always things that are more about their skills, their experience, their attitude, their personality, their potential. Those are the things that push it over the edge. So yes, you can get those baseline certifications in education. I always feel bad for the job seekers where they're hitting a wall as far as landing more opportunities. And they think, well, why don't I spend all this time and money getting more certifications or getting that MBA? And then they become disenchanted because by the time they complete it, they realize, wow, my job search hasn't changed.
You have a line in here that I think many job seekers are going to struggle with. You talk about it's not about blasting out as many applications as possible, that you should focus on quality instead of quantity in job applications. Can you talk with us in terms of what do you mean by that?
Absolutely. Getting job interviews and offers from applying online absolutely happens. And that's an important thing to focus on at times. But what so many people are told by their friends and family, which is incredibly toxic, and often their friends and family don't have long careers of hiring in that field that they're going into. And they say, well, you just need to apply more. You just keep putting yourself out there. And unfortunately, the way hiring works is online applications is one of the worst things to happen to job seekers because that has created where the floodgates are completely open for anyone to apply to anything. And Bob, I know you have so much experience hiring thousands and thousands of people. You know that with online applications comes tons of people who never read the job description, don't really know what the company's about. And so there's a lot of noise. And so you are just contributing to that noise when you are doing this high volume application. And the people who are reading these applications can tell. They can tell that you just blasted this out. You didn't really read the job description, whatnot. So what I found is if you are doing a more intentional approach, and there's lots of different ways to be intentional, but I have clients, and I talk about these folks in the book, where they go from sending out 500 job applications to sending out maybe 6 applications, maybe not even just applications, but approaching different companies, talking to them, and landing interviews at about half of those. And so that already is so much less time and so much more traction. And it really proves that this is not a numbers game.
And do you think, Madeline, that if I'm reading the job description, are you suggesting that I need to have 100% of all of the things that they're asking for? Or what's your feeling in terms of my ability to apply and not have everything?
It's interesting because it even goes back to what we were talking about earlier about it's easier to land a job if you're underqualified because companies make job descriptions like a wish list. And I know you definitely have experienced this where a hiring manager comes to you and says, I want them to be able to do gymnastics and throw a baseball and spin a plate on their head. And you're like, wait, how can one person have all of those things in one employee. And so the job description starts as a wish list, and then it becomes more refined in the interview process. Even so, even if this job description is refined, such as this company is hired for this role before, they have a really clear vision, even if you have maybe 70% of what's on that job description, they're going to see that as, okay, wow, this person's well qualified. They do have some room for growth, but if you can be persuasive in the interview process that that is not going to be a downfall in the role and that you can grow into it, that actually puts you in the most optimal position because they see this role as a step up for you in your career. And in that, they see longevity. They see you as likely having more career satisfaction by joining their business. So it's a lot of positives.
You talk about that you did a poll with thousands of people and asking them how they chose the career that they are currently in. And the results I thought were just fascinating. 10% chose their career because family or societal pressures pushed them along. 22% chose their career because they followed their passion. 14% of the people chose their career because they actually explored till they found the one that was right for them. And 54% of the people chose, I stumbled into this career. Can you give us a little highlight around that poll and what was some of the things that you learned from it?
I would say that the results did surprise me in that so many people stumble into their career, which if we're thinking about it, there are very few decisions you will make in your life that will have such an outsized impact on your happiness. Probably some of those things include where you live, what your job is, and who you choose as a life partner or the people who exist with you in your home. There's not that many other decisions that are that massively impactful. And so many of us make that decision by not deciding. We get in the inner tube of life, we float along our way, and this especially happens for people who are very smart because opportunities will just come your way when you're smart. And so you just take them without having explored, without having done the due diligence of saying, yes, I could take this opportunity and it could be good, but is it the right opportunity? Is it the best opportunity for me to spend decades of my life potentially on this? And so that's why it's so important that people get in the driver's seat of their profession and of their life, because that will help them to so much better steer them into a career that is much better suited for them, but they just don't know what's out there. They don't know what's the potential that they're missing out on.
Madeline, you have an equation to help people explore their career options. You call it the wealth formula. Values plus strength plus market demand equals wealth. Help us understand that equation.
Yes. So this is a really good equation to use when you're realizing, I'm not fully taking control of my career. I need to be more intentional about the next step that I choose. So wealth is spelled WELLTH. I believe that a career should provide you with a living that funds your lifestyle. So there's wealth in that there's a money aspect, but there's also the well aspect of you should also not come home exhausted, fed up, stressed every day. You should come home energized, eager to talk about what happened that day, that kind of stuff. And so the first piece is strengths. A lot of people will chase after their hobbies when it comes to a career path, but I want you to choose a job that funds your hobbies, that allows you that time to do them, because the fastest way to hate your hobbies is to make them a profession. So what I say is focus on strengths. What is actually fun in a job is mastery, being very good at it, because not only do we enjoy things that we're good at, that gets us into our flow state, but we also get promoted much faster when we're doing things to our strengths. If you've ever had a job where you are just inching towards 5 p.m., you're so drained, it's likely because that role wasn't playing to your strengths. So that's the first piece. The second piece are your values. So you have to think about, does this job actually play to what I value? Maybe what you value is growth. You really want to learn on the job and have new projects, new opportunities. And maybe that's just also for now, because there's been times in my career where that's my number one priority, and then other times where it wasn't. Other times, maybe it was more structure. You know that if you go into a job, it's a highly structured organization where everyone knows what they're doing, communication lines are clear. That is going to make you happy in your day-to-day life and all that. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's flexible work life, whatever it is. So you need to get those values set. And then the final piece that you mentioned is market demand. So when you land a job and you choose which job you're going for, the bottom line is work is to get you paid. We all talk about, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I don't believe that. I think that, yes, you can find a job you love. Yes, the work can feel really great at sometimes, but work is work and you should get paid the right amount for that work. And so you need to figure out for your next career move, are you going into a dead industry in a dead end job that's not going to pay you enough for what you want your lifestyle to be? Or are you going into a growing role where there's increased openings year over year and the salary over time meets your financial goals? I need you to do that research before going down the road of a career, because in the end, it's like we can complain that our career doesn't pay us enough, but who chose that career?
A follow-up to that whole value proposition, you talk in the book about crafting your online profile, particularly on LinkedIn, to help reflect your target profession, the industries that you're focusing in on, and the value you bring. Help us understand what you mean by that.
Yes, LinkedIn is an incredible place to be found for opportunities. So many people focus on the search of the job search, the hunt of the job hunt. I need to be constantly reaching out to companies, applying. My clients, they say often over 50% of their interviews are from companies inbound saying, hey, will you interview with us? I know you didn't apply. I know you've never talked to our company before, but we found you and we would like you to interview with us. And so imagine a world where a lot of your opportunities just come inbound. They find you and you land your next role. It has great compensation, all of that. And for the entire time you're in that role, there's opportunities coming into your inbox. Hey, are you willing to talk to us? And now you're in the driver's seat. Now, if your current job, God forbid, decides to lay you off, or there's something that happens with your role, or you simply are over it, you are in control. You have reversed the search. And so this all starts with your LinkedIn profile, because like it or not, LinkedIn is the dominant player in this arena. There's other places that you can get sourced, absolutely. And I would get a little bit more specific depending on your career path in your industry to dive into that. But as across industries, across career paths, LinkedIn is the dominant player. And so you need to craft your online presence to attract those opportunities, to not just have autobiography syndrome where you like to talk about yourself and your past career history, but instead frame yourself on LinkedIn as having the right skills for a specific career path, for specific opportunities, so that when companies need that position filled, they go to you.
And Madeline, does this work, this whole posting and branding of yourself on LinkedIn, does this work for all industries and all levels, or is it just suited for an entry-level person?
So in order for it to work, the people who would hire you need to be on LinkedIn. So let's say you are trying to be a 9th grade teacher in your area. A lot of the education field is not necessarily sourcing teachers on LinkedIn. So in that case, that wouldn't be possibly the right place for you. But really any like corporate or business careers, yes, 100%. For entry level, I would actually say it is definitely impactful for entry level, but where it gets even more impactful is the higher up you go in your career, the more and more LinkedIn is going to be truly your best friend, because companies hire executive recruiters to source these candidates, this director of product, this chief sales officer, whatever it is. And they go onto LinkedIn to find these people. And these are incredible roles that likely are not appearing on job boards. As you level up in your career year after year, the bounty for them to find you is getting higher and higher. and you want to be found. You want to get these amazing roles. And so you definitely need to be on LinkedIn.
And you talk about how to enhance that online presence through content creation. I don't know as I'm a good writer. I don't know even what I might share on there. How do you help me get started and do that content creation?
Well, the first thing I will say is that with my job shopping strategies, if you are someone who does not enjoy content creation, is scared of content creation, is very emotionally drained and mentally drained by content creation, it is not a priority to be successful in job shopping and in your career. So I just want to state that for your listeners of, yes, content creation can be a really great vehicle to be better noticed. But if you're hearing this being like, oh, so job shopping's posting online and making yourself an influencer, that is absolutely not it. So many of my clients never post a thing online, but other of my clients do create content. And really, when I talk about that, I want to give your listeners something that can be easy to do and highly impactful. So I want them to focus on commenting more than posting. I want them to focus on adding meaningful, thoughtful comments on what other people create. And the reason why that is so powerful is because, first of all, Bob, you post on socials all the time. You notice who comments on your things, right? So when someone comments on something of yours, they are now building a relationship with Bob. And so that's first amazing. That's a connection. That's a deeper networking strategy. The second thing is that they are now borrowing your audience. So if someone comments on your post, Bob, now all of this work, because you are posting several times a week, you're getting out there, they now get the eyeballs that you have worked so hard to get. So now they're being seen by other people and they're providing value to the world. And so that is a really great place. Like if you're looking to start there where you're adding an insight to something or you're asking a thoughtful question, just anything besides that is just too simple of a like, love it, something too simple. Like if you really want to amp it up, add an additional thought or piece of value, and that can really take it to the next level.
That's why you talk about you should shift your focus to interactions, not just applications. Does that follow?
That's absolutely right. Essentially, what you're referring to is a lot of us job seekers feel accomplished when we apply. And what I challenge you is don't stop there. Applying is you've put your information in a database. We have no confirmation that anyone is going to read it or anyone's going to read it in a timely manner that would work for all timelines. So what you need to do is, okay, sure, you might have put an application, but what interaction are you doing? Maybe you're doing 1 to 5 interactions based on that one opportunity. You are reaching out to the hiring manager. You're talking to people in the business. You're having informational interviews. You are commenting on LinkedIn posts, whatever it is. But that is then helping you to land the position because tools and databases don't land people jobs. People land people jobs.
And then you discussed the importance of some type of systematic follow-up process after you've made that initial contact with the person. How do I do that?
It's wild how important following up is. I think it's the piece that people feel very uncomfortable about. They get up all of this courage to reach out to someone, and then that person doesn't respond, and they give up because they think, well, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be this person that they're like, be quiet, leave me alone. But you do want to follow up because following up really sends the signal that this wasn't just a blast that you did out to hundreds of people. No, that this is an interaction that you care about. And so you should be following up. If you've sent someone an email or a message, follow up every few days. And then if that person doesn't respond and you really are trying to get in contact with someone else at the company, pick someone else and reach out to them and then follow up with that person. Of course, once you get to about 3 follow-ups or so, you can lay off. But it really goes to really help you to make sure that these people are actually noticing your message because you're not their top priority, but also you're also a helpful reminder of, hey, I'm someone who cares. I'm someone who's a great candidate. And a lot of these people, their job is to hire. And so you're helping them by showing them, hey, I'm someone who cares. I'm someone who's qualified. Let's talk.
You discuss in the book using a consultative approach when you're having these discussions with people that you might be meeting on LinkedIn or people that you've called up. What does that consultative approach look like? And how can I hone that into a best practice for myself?
So one of the things that people need a lot of help with is their interview approach. And too often, people go into an interview with the mindset of, I am going to answer their questions to the best of my ability. And I would say probably most of your listeners don't really know what's wrong with that sentence. And what's wrong with it is that this focus on simply answering questions and just trying to impress the other side actually can have the opposite effect that you would hope for. By having this hyper focus of, okay, what's going to sound good to them? How can I impress them? How can I just say the right thing? We miss out on the conversation, on the mutual vetting, on the you understanding the position deeply and you both having an active dialogue of if you're the right person and how you can work together. And so consultative approach, when you hear that phrase, the root there is consultant. What does a consultant do? They parachute in to a project or a challenge. They ask questions to understand what needs to happen, and then they go out and try to solve it. And so you should be parachuting into your interviews with these questions, with digging deeper. And when they see you being much more collaborative, it is going to unlock a whole different level of your interviewing. And in the book, I dive in much deeper into how to do this and some additional tactics to use. But this is really the mindset you need to go in with.
You discuss in the book how you can build career security by enhancing your marketability, developing a personal brand, acquiring in-demand skills, and expanding your network. And then you go on later in the book and you talk about recognizing that job security is a myth. Can you help our listeners understand all of that?
I have clients where they say, I want to work at a large company because I want job security or something like that. And Bob, I know you know just as well as I do. I mean, we've experienced job loss before. We've seen incredible companies go through tough financial times. And it doesn't matter if the company is 5 people or 5,000 people, your job is never safe. I had a client who I was just talking to the other day. He was at the same company for 9 years, incredible performer, and was laid off. And so we just can't depend on these companies having our back. And so job security is made up. That's not a thing. And so what you need to do is build career security, which is the idea that if you were to lose your job at any moment, at any time, that your ability to land your next job is swift and fairly easy, that you have opportunities ready to go. I mean, I know when I lost my dream job, it was the best job I've ever had. I was a top performer. I gotten promotions, multiple big performance awards, and I got laid off. And within the next week, I had 4 interviews at different companies. And within 4 weeks, I had several job offers. Now, was that because the moment I got laid off, I snapped into action? I started editing my resume. I started getting my LinkedIn up to snuff. I started warming up my network. Absolutely not. I was ready to go. My network was warm, my skills, my LinkedIn. I was already attracting these opportunities. I already had companies hovering, ready to hire me when this happened. And it wasn't because I was like working overtime to make all this happen. No, it was more of a passive strategy that you have to maintain, like changing your car's oil. It's not like something that you have to be obsessive about, but it is something you have to be diligent about. And so you need to build that career security. And other components of that also include keeping your skills up to date, making sure that you are not falling behind, because in today's job market, it's not that your job is going to necessarily disappear, but it may change and it may morph, and you need to be ready for it.
Madeline, any books or other resources that you would recommend to someone that may now be going through a job transition or may in the future?
I have gotten hundreds of thousands of success stories from my YouTube channel, Self Made Millennial. Check it out. There are hours and hours and hours of free videos on there that will really help your listeners to transform their job search, their interviews, all of that.
We have covered so much great information today, so many good tips and techniques. If our listeners remember just 3 to help them find their next great job easier and faster, what are those 3 things you want them to remember?
Bob, I want people to get clear on their next career step. Do not make it that you are on the lazy river hoping that life will take you to the next step. You're not going to wake up one day and soon everything's going to be clear. No, be intentional. Make his next career step intentional. 2, start building that presence. Start building your ability to be findable. If anyone is looking for someone with your expertise, you better be the person who is found. And 3rd, go into that interview with that consultant's mind. Do not be just trying to please them with the perfect answers, but go in as a collaborator.
Madeline, I know that I can speak for our listeners. You have provided so many great thoughts that we can implement next week to help us find that next great job. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and experience. It's been a great discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you for listening. We're working in unprecedented times. The purpose of these episodes is to give you the support and critical tools to adjust with the changing marketplace. I'll continue to introduce you to guests who have successfully survived their own obstacle course and can share useful information. If today's message was helpful to you, please share it on your social media. Your review and rating helps get this to more people. Also, if you have questions or podcast ideas for future conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Change is constant. The more prepared you are for it, the better and easier the change will occur. Thank you again. This is your host, Bob Gerst. See you at our next episode.